He challenged me. He said, you should meet 2 or 3 people every day.
We're talking about how to level up on LinkedIn, engagement, being the go-giver, the idea that being open to opportunity.
We're all dealing with challenges, but how do you overcome that?
Master Connector with Steve Spiro is live on air.
Hey, welcome everybody to the Master Connector Show. I'm your co-host, Rob Genovesi. So exciting. Every single week we are coming at you. We got great guests. We got great content talking all about connecting people. We are connectors ourselves, me and Steve, and we go back 27 years. And every time I think about it, I think like I can't be because I still feel 27. But 27 years, great journey. We're 2 former shy guys turned connectors, and our paths diverged at a certain point. And we went our separate ways after coming together through business years and years ago. When we came back together through networking, through connecting. Each of us has a different style and a different story. But listen, when it comes to connecting, we are all connected, and that's what we're here to do. So we're excited today. We got a very special guest for you. But before we bring her on up, I want to introduce you Mr. Steve Spiro. Steve Spiro is the Master Connector. He's an author. He's a speaker. He's a businessman. He is inspiring people all over the place, all over LinkedIn and all over the world for that matter, by meeting people every single day. This is something I couldn't really do, but he was challenged years ago. We had a similar mentor, and he said, listen, you need to meet a couple of people every day. If you can imagine meeting brand new people every day. Now, as an adult, we don't really make friends anymore. Once we're kids and we go through college, that's pretty much it for friends. But most people don't do it. Steve is still doing it to this day. He's an inspiration to people all over the place. So help me welcome to the Master Connector Show, the Master Connector himself, Mr. Steve Spiro. What's up, Steve?
Hey, good afternoon. How you doing, Rob? Good to see you, sir. And I appreciate the introduction. And it's hard to believe 27 years that I've been blessed to know you, sir. And I am really honored to have you as a co-host on the show here. I couldn't imagine anyone better than you to take us through this journey and to go on this journey together. So it's been a blast. It's been amazing. And 2 shy guys right in the room here. So it's pretty wild. But what's going on, friends? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. And, I don't know if you've ever thought of this or have been asked this. I go on a lot of podcasts to get interviewed. And often the question is, if you go back in years, to when you were like 19, 18, 20, 23, and we're going to have a guest on here. She's 23. And if you could speak to your younger self, what would you say? And there's a lot of things I would talk about. But one of the things I would talk about is self-development, the power of self-development and having that growth mindset, and it's interesting, right? What I've learned through the years, and Rob had alluded to it, that we have a similar mentor in other words, the same mentor for a while. And one of the things I learned through this growth and this journey, and, just crazy, shy and introverted, picked on, bullied, learning disabled, dyslexic. We all have our stories. And I don't want anyone to feel bad about it, because I really believe that whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But one of the things I learned is, you're either a tomato that's either growing or a tomato that's rotting and dying. And I always wanted to be somebody that was growing. I didn't want to be dying, right? For sure. And what's interesting along the way, this mentor of mine, he challenged me to read some books too. And one of the books that I read was a book called Mindset by Carol S. Dweck. And it talks about sort of the fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And, the story talks the book, there's a story in the book about where she's got this group, and I think she started out as a teacher, I want to say, and there was kindergarten students. And she had these kids broken up into tables, and each of the kids were given puzzles. And she noticed that some of the tables were super excited about the challenge, and other people on the table, other students on the table were frustrated, and they were throwing things, and they were really mad. And she realized that some people are growth oriented, that they don't mind making mistakes. They don't mind not having all of the answers and learning through that. And other ones were fixed, and they were basically, they were kind of, which is a way that a lot of times the education program trains us, which is it's bad to make a mistake, right? Because in the normal education world, you are penalized for making mistakes, right? You, instead of getting 100, you get a 95 if you got a couple things wrong or whatever. So it's really interesting. But what I've learned is, don't be afraid of failure. It's or making mistakes. It's in what happens is you grow through those mistakes, right? And this mentor that I was referring to, he challenged me and had me reading books and audios, podcasts today, I guess, and changing my association, which really made a huge difference. I've learned it, I've heard it said, if you hang with dogs, you're going to get fleas, right? And so it's a matter of kind of be who you surround yourself with, right? I know, Rob, you've heard that too, right? So,
oh yeah.
But what I've learned also, success is just failure turned inside out. Yeah, and you got to go through the suck to get through success, right? If you look at the word success, first three letters, SUC, right? So it's interesting, and I am just super impressed with this young lady. I know Rob's going to bring her up, but she's 23 years old, and what an incredible growth mindset. So I'll pass over to you, Rob. But before we do that, community, get in the comments. Tell us where you're calling in from. Tell us what city, what state, what country. And we want you connecting with each other. This is the Master Connector Show. This is not the Master Lurker shows. Okay, we're not lurking. We're connecting. We're involved, right? So, and we just see a number of how many people are watching the show. We don't know who you are unless you get in the comments. So we want you. And not only that, for our sake, but for your sake, because when you get in there and you say, hey, it's Yolanda, right, from Texas. We know people who are watching the show know who you are, and then hopefully you guys can connect with each other. So if you're ready, and we're going to do this throughout the show. Hey, Will, it's good to see you, sir. Will is in Connecticut right now, but originally but lives in California normally, right? He's from here, but glad to have you on the show. But type in right now hashtag Let's Go, and Rob is going to go ahead and introduce our guest.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. And, you mentioned that Genesis is 23 years old. When I was 23, man, I was still looking for a clue. Like I had no idea. But Genesis Vaquero she's a 23-year-old motivational speaker and freelance marketer. But she's been a marketer and speaker for the past 5 years. She discovered her purpose as a speaker when she spoke at a high school graduation and felt called on a mission to help lead and inspire others. She teaches the youth how to be confident leaders through the tools she gives them in her leadership training. Her marketing business course focuses on helping small to medium-sized businesses scale up through branding, and her brand goal is to bring a vision to life and make a positive impact through it. Please help us welcome to the show, Genesis Vaquero. Welcome, Genesis.
Hi, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
We're so blessed to have you on the show here. And
thank you.
Just want to acknowledge a few people. Ryan and I just recently connected. Great to have you on the show here from Boston. Looking forward to I know you and I had a great call the other day, and Marcus Garner's on here with us. So it's just excited to have a great community that's supporting us, that have bought into our cause here, which is really to be the light, uplift, and inspire and encourage. So Genesis, we want to chat with you a little bit here. So we want to, to me, great book, Simon Sinek, Start With Why. So type in hashtag Why community. And we want to ask you, Genesis, you're only 23 years old. Tell us not just how, but why you became so focused on having a growth mindset for success, please.
Yes, of course. So in terms of wanting a growth mindset, that really stemmed from seeing every successful person around me having one. And me saying at a standpoint at 18 years old, a senior in high school, if I want to get ahead of the curve, be successful, and grow, most importantly, I need to have that mindset. So I did everything you can think of to learn, to gravitate and really gain that mindset through books, through mentors, through programs. And it's something we'll dive in today that really helped myself professionally and not only personally grow.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's great stuff. So
Thanks.
we definitely, listen, it's so impressive, right? So, mentorship, super important part of our life. I know you've spoken about it a little bit, so I'd like to hear a little bit about that. So type in hashtag mentor community. And when you see that on the screen, in case I mess up and I don't call it out, just feel free to put that in, right? We want to have you participating. Marcus, thank you for putting in your hashtag why before. But yeah, so mentors, how can individuals effectively surround themselves with mentors and like-minded individuals who have a growth mindset to help them on their journey of personal development and success?
I really think it comes down to your environment. For me, Toastmasters was a great program to join with other like-minded speakers, people that were motivated, had a growth mindset, and wanted to do something challenging and practice communication skills. Also, just going up to people. I always tell students, take the initiative, make the introduction. Don't wait to be introduced. That's actually how I was introduced to my first two mentors, Kevin Bracey, who was a lifelong mentor that he had, Les Brown, of course. And that's a huge mentor to have, is someone like Les Brown. And he was my first speaking mentor to me. Then I had Kayla Scott, who did marketing and PR for the mayor of Roseville at the time. And she was my first marketing mentor. And that just happened through going to networking events and introducing myself and really following up with those connections.
You know, I love that. And it's interesting, right? We all have different kinds of mentors, right?
Yes.
It's not one mentor fits it all, and, you know, one-stop shop with one mentor. I was talking to somebody the other day, he was having some car trouble, and I've got a mechanic, and he's become my car mentor. You know, like, he's just amazing. His name is Calvin. If you need a great mentor in the New York, Westchester area, he's incredible. Probably the most honest mechanic I've ever come across.
Love that.
But yeah, you need a mentor in different parts. And I love the fact that you talked about having several kinds of mentors. Les Brown, man, that is amazing. He's a renowned author, speaker. That's just incredible.
You know, when I think about what Genesis said, she said, I would just walk into networking events. I'm going to tell you something. I was scared to death to walk into a room. And here you're doing, it's probably what stunted my growth was I was just so scared. And I didn't know what to say. I was so nervous because I was very, very shy and introverted. So, you know, that's a double whammy against me. But you were just walking into rooms. I mean, did you just have that confidence naturally?
I would say I had to build thick skin through doing it. How I explain it to students is I didn't even have a business card on me at the time. I mean, I just walked in unprepared, preparing myself. And it worked out, you know, just making the introduction, not waiting to be introduced, like I said, not judging or being intimidated by someone's title, because at the end of the day, a person is a person and they want to be treated like a person. So I did that. I just try to be very genuine and try to see what value I could add, and one thing led to another.
I love that. You know, it's funny because, you know, as Rob mentioned, we're both shy guys. So talking to people, and especially strangers. I mean, you know, I don't know if they call it up by you, but you know, here it's stranger danger, right? It's like you talk to a stranger in New York area, they're going to shoot you or kidnap you. It's crazy, but it definitely, that takes you out of your comfort zone, which leads us to the next question, right? So hashtag comfort zone community, if you can. And, you know, navigating a growth mindset often, you know, involves stepping out of your comfort zone. So what are some practical tips for facing fears? And certainly I've had a lot of them. I'm sure we all have, right? And embracing new challenges in order to grow.
I would say do what scares you the most. Don't think about it. Use the 5-second rule, where essentially you have 5 seconds to think about doing something. And I've used that tactic throughout my years, and it's helped me. For an example, facing challenges. At an early age, I was put into karate by my parents. So I know Steve can connect to the story. And it had to entail a lot of mental discipline. I mean, being 4 years old, having to learn karate skills was not easy. And that definitely helped me later on have that mental discipline. So doing things that are really uncomfortable. Doing Toastmasters was never comfortable for me at the beginning. It was scary. I tell students I always did breathing techniques in my car. I mean, I thought I was going to shake in my boots before I was going to walk in there and I was going to fall. I mean, I was a nervous wreck before going in. But end of the day, I knew in order to grow, I have to go into this conference room and give a 10-minute speech to people that are 30 years beyond my success. And I did it. So I'd say just do it. You're really not going to regret it at all. If anything, it's going to be such a reward, such a blessing, because it builds that thick skin I'm talking about. Once you have that thick skin, you feel amazing, you feel confident, and it makes you do more challenges and things that scare you even more in the future.
That's awesome. And, Eric, I want to call out. It's good seeing you. Shy never came across that way. Well, it's a lot of work, Eric, for sure. It took a lot of work. But I just want to reflect on the karate, the martial arts thing. I went up against, like, I'm 5'7" barely, not super big framed. And I started later. I was started at 20 when I got into the martial arts. And I went up against this guy. His name was Sharif. And he was like this African-American guy what happened was he got into an accident. He was riding a bike growing up, and some white guy hit him, while he's riding a bike. I don't know if it was on purpose. I don't know the full story, but it made him paralyzed on one side. His one arm was completely non-functional. And so he had this, like, any guy, probably anyone that looked like the guy who hit him, he wanted to kill. And I was one of those guys. And he had this hand that looked like the size of a ham. It was huge because it was his one weapon, right? That and his legs and feet. And I was so intimidated, but I broke through it. I got through the comfort zone, and I realized that fear and those things that we face sometimes is really just paper. That wall is kind of paper mache. It's really not. It's a lot of what's in our own minds, right? And so I love what you said there. So on the topic of that, I want to talk about rewire. Okay, so type in #rewire. So because I know we can program our brain a little bit here. So developing that growth mindset, it's about rewiring your thinking patterns, right? And so what strategies can individuals employ to replace unhealthy habits with healthier ones and give themselves a more productive life, in terms of their daily routines?
Yeah, no, there's plenty of techniques. I would say the ones that worked most for me include ones we talked about: surrounding yourself with mentors, a really healthy environment, because that's only going to feed into you having more of a growth mindset. Also, facing challenges like we just talked about, that is an excellent technique to use because it not only builds your confidence, but yet again, it helps you grow. And I would say a big thing, like you said right there, is keyword is habits. I mean, technology surrounds us everywhere, every day. We talked about this a little before getting on the show, and I mean, my device is right here, and it's unhealthy. We were not, supposed to ever be surrounded by this much technology, in my opinion, is what I believe. And so what you need to do, I think, is be away from it, right? Be present with yourself, with your mind. Work on not only a growth mindset, but mindfulness is also important because they correlate the two and two together. So for me, I do walks. I go out. I don't grab my device. Sometimes I will. I risk it sometimes. I have my pepper spray, so I'm all right. And, I'll just take some time to think about things in my life, professionally, personally, where I am, how I can improve, just looking in the mirror and trying to analyze my strengths and weaknesses, doing a SWOT test initially. Sometimes I'll talk to family and friends if I do bring my phone, but I try to do something that stays away from social media because social media is very unhealthy when it comes to your mindset, especially that self-control and discipline is hard for us all when social media was invented to be highly addictive and trap us. So definitely getting away from that, having books in your house everywhere, I think is a great thing to do because if not, you just latch onto your phone. You latch onto that Netflix series, and I know how easy it is to do so. So books are really good for that. Two I recommend is Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty, one of my favorite individuals. He's an expert on growth mindset. Also watch his podcast On Purpose with Jay Shetty. Amazing book. And then, as we all know, does not have the cover. I had it off, but Atomic Habits. It's an amazing book by James Clear, and it's just an awakening type of book. You read it and you just feel so empowered, so prepared. So I'll just say it's always the little things. It's always a baby steps. Never think it has to be something super big at the beginning. Always start small and then escalate up that elevator, up those stairs, and to building stronger habits that way.
One of the things I love what you said, Genesis, and it was kind of wedged in there in a lot of what you said. But when you said, you kind of get outside and you get away from the technology, and as much as I love technology and I'm an introvert, could spell disaster, right? Because I could just sit on my computer, which actually my training is a graphic designer. That's what I was educated to do. I did that so I could hide behind a computer and not talk to anybody. So as technology increased in frequency in our lives, I would hide behind it. But for a growth mindset, if you stay there, you don't necessarily grow there. There's that part of me that I'm not an outdoors person. I love being inside, but I go outside and I don't take my phone and I just walk around my property and I feel the ground underneath me. And you know what happens? Ideas come to me, clarity comes to me. And that's a big part. Steve and I, again, we shared mentors. We shared similar growth mindset earlier on, where we read hundreds and hundreds of books in a fairly short period of time. Well, you could read hours a day, every day. But if you don't think and apply and connect the dots, that clarity, it's for the growth is for nothing. There's no growth. It's just everything's going in. But until you bring it together and put it out there, it's really not going to help. And one of the ways is disconnecting, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And again, Genesis, the last thing you just spoke about, there was so many great nuggets in there, and I appreciate that. I just want to go on the technology side a little bit too. Besides the unplugging, I think the other challenge, and especially see it rampant in your generation, is there's so much information that people are overloaded with information. I also think there's an arrogance, a false arrogance of I know it all because it's all there on your device. And so there's an independence and an arrogance that I think has, and it sounds like I would love the fact that I don't feel that with you, that you're hungry, you're not afraid to go disconnect, you're not afraid to read actual books, to seek mentorship. And that's amazing, right? Because that's the other part. I think the other downside to the addictive side of social media and the technology is also that factor that there's something great about having information at your fingertips, but sometimes it could be a little bit too much.
Yeah. I agree completely. Yeah. Yes.
So I want to talk about a challenge. So hashtag challenge, right? So, we are always, I'm a big believer in challenging the status quo and, not as necessarily accepting what is for what it is, right? So what are some specific ways? So type in hashtag challenge community in case I didn't say that. So what are some specific ways that people can identify and confront their comfort zone in various aspects of their lives, such as career or relationships or personal development?
I would say focus on what you need to improve on, right? Gain that clarity. Take those clarity walks that we just heard about and see what weaknesses do you have? What are your thorns in the side? What do you need to improve? Is it public speaking? Is it marketing? Is it sales? What are you going into? What do you need to develop as skills to really be a firm foundation to your success? And then take classes on that. Be surrounded by people with that. Challenge yourself, right? To give those speeches. Join Toastmasters, which I highly recommend. And do those things that really scare you so much to where you have to just take that 5-second decision-making rule and make the decision and say, end of the day, how bad do you want it? How hungry are you, as Les Brown says? And if you're that hungry, do it even if it scares you, because like I said, end of the day, it's a reward, and that is growth right there.
I love that. It's funny, and Rob, I'd love to hear you chime in on this one, but I found that the more I challenged me, like I heard the comfort zone is your casket. The more I allowed myself to just be who I was and not challenge myself. I'm not saying I was not comfortable about myself, although that was a period of my time. That is true. But just challenge myself. I felt more alive. I felt more better about myself when I was challenging myself versus the lazy sit in front of the TV and watch Netflix, binge watch Netflix and eat my favorite ice cream, butter pecan Haagen-Dazs, that felt good in the moment, but not feeling good fulfillment wise, for sure. So Rob,
when you think about the discomfort or the comfort zone, right? So outside it is discomfort. And for each person, it's a different size, and for me, it was this tiny little box because everything was uncomfortable for me. And when I started organized networking, I like to say that, Steve and I weren't in organized networking. We were taught raw, real world networking. That means wherever you are out there in the world, whether you're pumping gas at the grocery store, wherever, there's a person there, you talk to them. that's how we busted out of that shy zone. But the discomfort zone was still there, because I remember when I got into organized networking, I joined an organization called Master Networks, and I would go into rooms physically. And I would walk into a room full of strangers. To your point, Genesis, you did that. I had,
Yes.
I wasn't able to do that for many decades. So kudos to you. But I would walk in and I made a deal with myself. I'm going to do something uncomfortable. And that means that when they were all in the room and they all basically knew each other, I was like this new guy. And they would talk about an idea or concept in business, and they would ask for feedback. I made a deal with myself in my own mind. I said, as soon as that person finished talking, I would shoot my hand up right away, even if I had nothing to say, because the pressure and the adrenaline, every time I did that and my mouth opened up, something came out. And fortunately, most of the time I was intelligent because I had enough books in me. But that was the thing that was very uncomfortable to me, was talking first and having everybody look at me. That comfort zone, I had to smash that. So that's the thing that I had to do. Again, like you say, do what scares you. That scared the hell out of me, but I did it anyway.
I love that. That's awesome.
All right. So we got some comments in here. Welcome, Estelle. Pleasure to be here. She's from Quebec City. Great discussion, guys and gals. Thanks for coming, Estelle. You make it much better for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was. Yeah, you were talking about the talking to strangers, and one thing I want to just chime in and say, and I want everyone that's watching and listening to this, I want you to understand what I would convince myself is, and not false bravado, if you will, but because I put so much good stuff in my brain, books, audios, podcasts, association, I feel like when I'm in a room, the room is better because I'm there. And that's the mindset. If you could go into a new situation so that it really helps you. I know there's that face the fear, just break through it, all that, right? But that's one piece of it that you can also take from the show. And that is, because one thing I could hear clearly is what Genesis did at 23 to be, well, prior to 23, but now 23, is to be able to have that confidence and that, the understanding of knowing that you've got something amazing to offer because you've been pouring good stuff into you for a long time now. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. I agree. It's so useful to just on the spot network. I always emphasize that it's a great technique. It really does build your confidence. I mean, whether you're getting coffee, gas station, that's actually how I did it too. I guess it's the old school way, which I think is very sad that it's viewed that way. I think that is the power of networking. It's doing it the old school way, right? Talking to people in the real world, real time, introducing yourself on the spot, unexpectedly. I think that's where the magic really happens.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So good stuff. So we're about to wind down here. So I want to thank you, Genesis, so much. And listen, audience, you want to connect with Genesis Vaquero on LinkedIn. Listen, for as much in-person networking as we do, as much Zoom networking as we do, there is LinkedIn networking as well. This is where Steve meets a lot of people. This is where I'm meeting people. This is where Genesis is meeting people. Mm-hmm. Let's meet there, because we can always start there. And where it goes, it could be anything. So, Genesis, I want to say thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate your time. Time flies. You've added so much value to what we're doing here and to our viewers. So, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on the show. It's been a blast. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Yeah, just hang on a little bit here. So I know, Rob, we're gonna talk about something there, but I know we have a show coming up, right? So you want to talk about something first, or?
Yeah. So first, I want to tell you guys, listen, Steve's experience is in this book right here, The Tao of a Master Connector. You want to pick up a copy of this, because I'm going to tell you the experience that a person has like Steve, coming from where he came from. And look, I remember 27 years ago, Steve doesn't mind me saying this, we were clueless. Like we didn't know what we were doing, but
So
Steve's got it in this book here. And you want to pick up this book and get it. We're going to put it in the chat before we leave here, but pick up the book, because one of the great things, I always tell people this, you can get smarter by reading the minds of smart people or people with experience. And the best way to do that is through the book they write. The words they put in there, the thoughts they put on paper, you can literally read their minds because they put it out there. So pick up that book. Steve, you want to talk about this thing that you're doing, right?
Yep. If anyone is anywhere near the Norwalk, Connecticut area, if you're in the city, or you're somewhere in Connecticut, or even lower Rhode Island, come see me. I'm going to be at it's called the Noah Local Author Festival. It's on Saturday. This Saturday, I'll be there specifically from 10 o'clock till about 4. I'll be speaking at 2 o'clock. So if you're anywhere close by, come join us. Come visit us. If you like a copy of the book, by the way, my book just launched on Audible. So if you're not a person that has the patience to sit in front of it, and sit down and read a book, you could actually listen to the book. It's pretty cool. So, and if you're on a budget, let me know, because if you're real serious, I could get you a free version, a coupon to a free version if you're really serious, but you got no money. Because I was there at one point, I understand. But not to reiterate, but I want to reiterate, Rob, Rob's sentiments, Genesis, fantastic. Really appreciate you being on here. Community audience, we love you. We appreciate you. So grateful to have you on here. Want to just mention we are going to have another show, of course, next week. So excited about that. Next week is Make Them Feel You, right? And our episode is with Jen Crow. So it's going to be an amazing show. Same bad time, same bad channel next week, 1 o'clock Eastern time. So make sure you get in. I think the link will be available there for you to click on there to sign up. The advantage of clicking on the link is you're going to get it's going to get on your calendar. You're going to get a reminder. So that definitely make sure you do that. But in general, listen, as we wind down here, right? Remember, we're in a tough world, right? Our hearts, our prayers, our thoughts go to Israel. I know Ukraine is dealing with stuff too. We are in a crazy world right now. But you know what? Let's just remember, with all the darkness out there and the loneliness and the hurting, let's just remember to shine our light, right? Uplift and encourage people. Let's be the light, right? Because if each of us shine our light, this world will be brighter, right? It's like the metaphor, and I've experienced it, and Rob has too. We're in a conference room with a bunch of all the lights are out except for the the exit lights, and somebody in the front of the stage lights a candle, and then he lights 2 people's candles, and by the time a minute or so later, the room is brightly lit. And that's what I believe that we could do in the world here. So let's make sure to light our candle, make sure we're lit up, right? And and the slogan, let's get lit, right? And I don't mean with some foreign substances. I mean, get lit in terms of our excitement, our enthusiasm, our passion, our joy, and then share that joy with other people. So appreciate you guys. Robbie G, thank you so much, sir. Appreciate you, all that you do behind the scenes. And Genesis, fantastic job today. Definitely want to stay in touch. Definitely want to maybe share a stage one day, not just a virtual stage, but a physical stage with you one day. And absolutely excited. And maybe even Rob G, because I know he does speaking too. He's incredible.
There you go. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you, Genesis. We'll see you soon. Here we go.
Thank you, Bill.
We're out.
He challenged me. He said, you should meet 2 or 3 people every day.
We're talking about how to level up on LinkedIn, engagement being the go-giver, the idea that being open to opportunity.
We're all dealing with challenges, but how do you overcome that?
Master Connector with Steve Spiro is live on air.